Everybody, welcome to the studio. And today, in the Halloween theme, not that that's necessarily Halloween, but spiders give us all the creeps and scare us all a little bit. So I thought it'd be fun to paint a spider, and what's more iconic of a spider to paint than a tarantula? They're spooky and they're creepy, but they are kind of cool. I've got a story to tell about tarantulas a little bit later. I've drawn a tarantula here on my piece of paper. This is a bit of Arches paper. It feels a little thin. I don't know what the weight of this is, but this is Arches paper. Over here on my right hand side, I've got my M-gram paints, and tonight I'm going to be using a different paintbrush than I normally use. Tonight I'll be using my golden maple paintbrushes. These are a quill round or quill mop paintbrush. Golden Maple sent these to me to test out. I really like these. And I will say, if you see me painting with these and you like these and you want to try these, they're relatively inexpensive. There's a link down below. You can get some of these for yourself. So the spider, as you can see over there, a lot of legs, which are very thin, and the body, which is really not very big either. So for most of this, I'm going to be using the smallest of the brushes. This is a number 2. And with that, I'm going to say hello. Sudike is here. Dana is here. Hello to you. I hope you guys are having a great week so far. Sudike and I were having a little conversation before I get started here. And found out that like me, not everybody likes spiders. Spiders scare me. They're cool. They're fascinating scientifically, but they are pretty spooky. So we'll just go with that. Michelle is here. Liza is here. Hello, hello, hello. Michelle is fascinated by spiders. There you go. Liza is very excited to see the brushes. Yep, we're going to get into those. And I think I'm just going to jump right into this. And let me explain, when I look at the tarantula, what I see. right? I see that bright pop of orange on there, at least this tarantula, this type of tarantula. I see that bright pop of orange kind of around the joints, like the elbow joints or the knee joints, where there's a big bend, right? And maybe some around the skirt of its body, right? And then I see this deep brown. There's definitely an orangey tint to part of it, but there's a deep brown. So there's some mixing between those two colors. So I'm going to be using a lot of 3, maybe 4 colors here, right? I'm going to be using burnt umber. I'm going to be using sepia. Let's get this out and you can see what I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using burnt umber. I'm going to be using a little bit of sepia. There might be some yellow ochre mixed in there. And I'm going to be using a lot of this Azo Orange. In addition to that, Sudike asked me how it is I'm planning on painting some of the hair on here. And I have a gouache here. It's a nice orange. I've got a nice orange color of this gouache that I've never really used before. Other than last night, I kind of broke it out and did a couple of lines. So I'm going to try to use a little bit of gouache and we'll see how that goes. I guess that's going to make it like a mixed media kind of thing. Tracy is here. Hello, Tracy. Good to see you again. Let's see, Michelle says, well, coming from Australia, all the deadly animals. Yay. Here in the UK, fortunately, not so many deadly animals. Yeah, half of everything in Australia wants to kill you. Half of everything that lives there. Holy cow. Okay, so I'm going to get going with this. And I'm going to start with a mix of burnt umber. And I'm going to put a little bit of this yellow ochre in it. And I'm going to, what I want to do is, see my spider is, well, you know, the spider. The back area back here, I want a little bit lighter and I want to make it darker as I come forward. So I'm hoping that this yellow ochre helps to keep this color a little lighter, maybe not quite so intense. And as it comes forward, we'll darken that color up and we'll orange that color up a little bit too. And with a little luck, we'll have something that looks more 3D than anything else. And I'm going to start by painting a couple of segments here. I think this is the best way to do this. I will say, I don't normally paint spiders, right? It's not really something in my wheelhouse. But I understand it's a Halloween season. I'm going to try something a little different. So this is, I haven't done a pre-painting of this painting, right? A practice painting. So this is just how I think it should go. We'll figure it out along the way. But this is what I want to do, is paint a number of these leg segments. And I think if we do that, by the time we finish up, all those segments put together, we'll make it look really articulated and really look maybe lively, maybe not alive. I don't really paint, photorealistic stuff, but it'll look lively, I hope. So we'll go from there. So I told Sudike, I said, I've got a bit of a spider story for everybody. And so while I'm getting started on this, I'm going to tell you my spider story. When I was in college, I went to Ohio State. I think everybody knows that. It's never tried to hide that. I had a good friend of mine who was in the, biological sciences department or some such department as that as a student. And there was a raid on one of her teachers' houses, one of her professors' houses. I guess the guy had been hoarding animals, and he had several hundred animals in his possession and was not taking care of them well. And she called me and she goes, well, they're trying to find homes for all these animals. Would you be willing to take an animal? And I said, sure, yeah, sure. I'll take an animal. No problem. I don't have any problem with that. So I guess maybe I should have said, well, what animal are we talking about? So the next day, she came over with a tarantula. And she was like, well, I thought this would be perfect because you do have a fish tank that you're not using. You can just put them in the fish tank and everything will be good. Cool. Yeah, sure. Everything's going to work out. We'll just throw a tarantula in the fish tank. Well, I put the tarantula in the fish tank, which was fine. I really didn't have a problem with that part of it. But when you grow up in Ohio and there aren't a whole lot of tarantulas around, you kind of don't have the understanding of what a tarantula is. I mean, you know it's a spider, but you don't know how it works or lives or anything like that. So I kind of went down to the old pet store and went, hey, I need some crickets. I need to feed a spider that I just got. The guy's like, cool, I got some spiders right here. And I'm like, all right, awesome. That's cool. So I took my crickets and I opened up the top of the fish tank and I dumped the crickets in, and that spider just moved like pow, and he jumped across the tank, and it happened so fast it scared me so badly. I literally was shaking, and I'm like, I don't know what to do because I don't think I can keep this spider. It scares me too much. So then I had this tarantula spider. I'm like, now what am I going to do with it? As it turns out, I donated it to the pet store where I ended up buying the crickets. But let me tell you, getting it out of its tank and to the pet store was quite a feat, especially after you've been scared half to death by the speed of this animal. And it wasn't this particular tarantula. It was a tarantula that had it was all brown. It had like light brown, dark. It was all dark brown. It had like light brown lines on it, and I always thought it looked like an exoskeleton. Anyway, it was scary. The point of the story was, it scared me to death. I'm still scared to death of them. But now I guess I'm old enough and wise enough to know they really aren't going to hurt me. They don't really want to hurt me. They're just trying to do what they do, and they're not poisonous or anything like that. So I tried to make my peace with tarantulas. I really tried. Does anybody else have any tarantula stories? I know around here, this is the beginning of mating season for tarantulas. If you've ever wondered about that. They come out just before winter. And I don't have them where I'm at because we don't quite have the right climate, the right microclimate for it. But if you go 20 miles inland or so, there are plenty of tarantulas wandering around, and people will stop their cars for 10 or 15 minutes and let great flocks of them cross the road, which actually is a sight to see. Okay, and while I'm telling stories, I'm just going to continue to paint on, and anybody who has anything to say about this, just throw something out there. I'll be happy to stop talking about spiders while we continue to paint. And like I said, I'm just trying to do this in some segments and get some base color on here. We're going to come back and we're going to, before we add the hair and before we before we add any hair onto these, we're going to add some dimension to them, I guess is what I wanted to say. So I've got a number of these. I'm trying to look to see kind of on this third joint, well, second joint up from the bottom of the foot is where the orange really starts to start. So I'm gonna put that on there. If we want to talk about these brushes, you can see I'm able to go for quite a long way and paint with this because it holds quite a bit, actually holds quite a bit of water. I can just keep right on rolling with this. It's more a habit of having to go back to my palette to get some new paint on it more than it is a necessity. Am I still broadcasting? Everybody's kind of stopped. Sherry's coloring in Painty Corner. You can't draw for squat. Is there a template for this? I don't really do templates. But I can tell you, spiders are actually pretty easy to draw. And if you need tips, if you're worried about being able to draw for painting, there's lots of ways you can draw for painting. This spider is basically a big circle in the middle, a circle on top, and then a lot of little rectangles that come off of it. Rectangle, 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 rectangle. They have a rounded over end, but they're basically a series of rectangles. So this one's not really all that difficult. But if you feel you have problems drawing for painting, and I think drawing for painting is much easier than drawing for drawing. Now, Tracy does drawing for drawing, and I couldn't do that. And Tracy is a fantastic sketch artist, and her drawings are fantastic. And I would love to take some lessons from her on how to do that. But for me, for watercolor painting, for my style anyways, I basically just want an outline of things and it's a basic idea of where something goes. And then I like to paint everything else from there. Interesting. Let's see. Oh, Susie says, the only facts I know about spiders is from Hollywood, arachnophobia. I don't know that that's the best place to get your spider facts, but yeah, okay. Arachnophobia movie, and of course, what the spider bite did to Peter Parker, right? Turned him into Spider-Man. It did. All right. I think arachnophobia didn't help any of us with our fear of spiders. I know that it didn't help me. It greatly exacerbated a feeling I already had, that they were strange, scary animals. Now, some spiders are a little harder to draw just by the fact that their segments are different, right? Their abdomen or their torso back here, I guess that's their abdomen back there, is a different size, or their torso up here is a different size, and their legs are such differing lengths that can make it more difficult. But this guy here, pretty simple when you break it down. Sherry. I did do some self-study at one point in time, and this is a really fun little site that you can go to if you're curious in learning and getting a little bit better at painting at drawing. And this is where I learned many of my drawing skills, of which I think I have one, maybe a half, not many. Regardless, it's learn to draw, learn number 2, draw. And the person or the group that puts that together really does a good job of showing you how, as using this for an example, this is just a big circle. Draw a big circle here, then draw a circle on top of it, right? And that gives you the spider body. And then draw a rectangle and a rectangle, and it breaks it down into common shapes. Things we think of and things we look at and things we use every day. And when you start seeing things in these simpler shapes, at least for me, and I don't want to group everybody into my way of doing things. It makes it easier to understand how to draw certain things, and makes the proportioning of things just a little bit simpler. And he's got these little spinnerets up here. Something like that. Let's see. What do we got here? Susie. Spider. Oh, sure. So spiders are important. They are. Groudon, I don't know, said something I don't understand there. Baracophilia, something, I don't even know what that says. The only insect I kill is a mosquito. Eliza says the only insect I kill is mosquitoes. You hate mosquitoes. Groudon, I like watercolor and tarantulas. There you go. This is the stream exactly for you. You like watercolors and tarantulas. Negative shape. Oh, Sadika says seeing things with negative shapes also helps you. Totally understand that. Totally get that. That's often very helpful. Okay, so where I'm at here, I think I've got the bottoms, and I hope you all can see, there's the bottoms of all the legs on my tarantula. Mine's a little different than that one. The bottoms of all the legs. Now this next segment in the legs, let me hold it up so I want to make sure you can see. The next segment in all these legs has an orange component to it. So I want to make sure I get that orange component on here. Groden says, I know, right? I know. This is perfect. Well, I don't think I've seen you on here before. Thanks for joining. Really like having new people here. If you have any questions about me, if you have any questions about my painting, if you have any questions about watercolors, I've been doing it for quite a while. I'm usually pretty good at answering questions. Throw your questions out there. I'll answer just about anything. I don't have a need to hide too much of anything, so I like to be able to help people understand watercolor painting better. I want to encourage people to paint watercolors because I enjoy it, and if I enjoy it, I want other people to enjoy it, and then maybe we could do some painting together at some point in time, or at least I can help to make sure that the hobby, the skill that I like so much, can get passed on to somebody else. And if you can do it and enjoy it, then maybe you'll pass it on to somebody else. And in that way, we can keep watercolor going. It's kind of an art form that's dying in many respects, and I don't want it to die. I want it to keep going. I think it's a fantastic pursuit. Not only are you able to make something that usually looks pretty good, you can do it pretty quickly, and it's easy to pick up, it's easy to set up, it's easy to clean up, and not a lot of artistic pursuits are like that. Right? Oil paints take forever to set up and clean up. If you draw with charcoal or anything like that, it takes a long time to clean up. Oh, it takes forever to clean up because they're so messy. Acrylics are harder to clean up. Oh yeah, Liza says everybody hit the thumbs up, please. Here, give me a thumbs up if you like this. And Dana says watercolors are really relaxing, and they are. And they are, unless you're doing it in front of a dozen or so people on a Wednesday night, painting a painting that you've never done before, hoping that it turns out it doesn't look terrible and you make a fool out of yourself. But other than that, they're very relaxing. It's also a great portal medium. Okay, there you go. Watercolors are fantastic. They're the most diverse medium out there, meaning that if you wanted to paint super hyper realistic, you can do that with watercolor. If you want to paint something that's completely abstract, you can do that with watercolor. Makes no difference. The medium is so forgiving to anything you want to try with it. It's just a wonderful way to express yourself, or you know, even like you're saying, even just spend some time or relax. It's fantastic. Portable. It's a great portable medium. There you go. Thank you. Let's see. Michelle says, I just bought the King Art brushes, hoping might be the right brush for me. The best ones I've used are Phoenix mop brushes, but sometimes I need something a bit finer. So, okay, Michelle, I'm going to ask, which King Art brushes did you get? I still do very much like the King Art brushes. I will readily admit that. I used them for almost 3 years straight. They're wonderful brushes. Did you get the 90-20 series, or did you get the regular 9000 series brushes, or did you go with something different? I very much like the 90-20 series because there are lots of times when you just want that extra fine point on there, and that's what the 90-20 series is all about, is having that point, that fine point on there. So if you do a little looser watercolor, then maybe you don't want the... Okay, cool, you got the 90-20. If you do a little looser watercolor, maybe that 9000 series is a little better for you because it doesn't come to quite as fine a point, but you can still do a lot of things with it. But cool. So you get the 90-20 series. I'm really curious to hear back from you next week to see how you like those. Or in 2 weeks, take some time to get to know them. I don't know what your painting schedule is like. Sometimes people do it during the week. Sometimes they do it on a weekend. Sometimes they only do it when they have the time to do it. But I'm really curious because, and I still have them here. I really like the taper and the point on these. I think it's fantastic. And like, I bought 8. I got a pack of 8. I split them and used 4. I have 4 up here on my desk, and I have 4. I'm pointing, and you can't see where I'm pointing. And I have 4 in my cabinet over there that I didn't use, and I haven't worn through the 4 that I have over here yet. I think they're wonderful brushes, and I didn't know what to think about the bristles on them. The bristles had held up perfect. So I really like those. I hope you enjoy them too. Let's see. Eliza says, Michael, are you much more relaxed as you continue with your lives? I think you're enjoying it more and more, which is great. My only problem, quite honestly, Eliza, my only issue with this is about those 5 minutes before I go on. I do get a bit nervous in there, and I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? How am I going to do it? I don't know. And I start, my brain takes over and won't let my brain settle down. But once I start, it's all good. I don't worry about it at all. What happens, happens. I've painted enough to know that no matter what happens in a painting, I'm probably going to be able to recover fairly well and fix whatever issues might arise. So I don't really even worry about it. I say I worry about it, but I don't really worry about it. And yes, it is fun to do. I talked to a couple of friends of mine a couple of weeks ago who are musicians. Now, I'm certainly not a musician, but they're always trying to find somebody to play with or a group to play with so that they can get out and do some live sets and whatnot. And I'm like, well, that's weird. Why do you want to do that? And they're like, it's just different. There's something different about playing in front of a group that makes it feel different, and you get a different feeling about it. Anybody can stay home and you can practice and you can do a lot of stuff on your own, but when you're playing in front of a group, it's somehow slightly different, and it's exhilarating, and it is here too. So I for a number of years since I've started painting live, the worst part is that 5 minutes before I go live, by far. Let's see. Sherry's here. Hello. I love my Princeton snaps. Okay, Sherry, so you have some Princeton snap brushes. Those are surprisingly nice brushes for the amount that they cost. They're really were the last ones I bought, really a budget brush. And what you get for them is really not a budget brush. You get a really nice brush out of them, and that's saying something. I mean, that's really kind of saying something. Okay, now I need to crack on with what I'm doing. Let's see. Liza says, I went to our gallery weekend here, and many of our artists let me look at their brushes, and I was shocked that so many of them were inferior, like Hobby Lobby, and they made such lovely art. It's the carpenter, not the tools. Yeah, it's funny. Well, see, I'm looking to see. I think I told everybody do I have it here? Nope. I have somewhere, I have a $100 paintbrush. I didn't buy it. Thank God. But I have a $100 paintbrush, and quite honestly, completely disappointed in it. You know how they say you should never meet your heroes? Well, I met mine. Right? I wanted that Winsor Newton Series 7 brush. The Winsor Newton Series 7 brush, that's the king of all brushes. And I got one and I went, this is it? This is not the brush that I thought it was going to be. This is not nearly the brush I thought it was going to be. 100% disappointed in it. And then I'll buy a brush, or I'll get a brush somehow that's, $30. And it'll be fantastic. So I totally understand that cheaper, let's not say inferior brushes, but less expensive brushes totally make their way onto other artists' desks. And the other thing is, if you're making art, you don't always make money with your art, and so you've got to stretch your budget. And if you buy a $100 paintbrush, let's say, you buy that $100 paintbrush, that better be a really good brush, and it better last you a long time, because you might be better off buying 3 or 4 cheaper brushes and hitting on one of those and having, like a spare or something, more than spending all of your money on one brush and then not having it work out for you. So I'll bet there's a lot of that goes on too. All right, I'm just yammering on, but that's an interesting observation, Liza. Interesting observation. I used to watch on, it was PBS, and I'm trying to think who it was, what her name was. It was some woman that would paint watercolors on there, and I used to watch her, and she was okay. I'm not taking anything away from her artistic ability. I really didn't think she was all that much better than me. but she was engaging to watch and, you know, made some nice artwork. Oh my Lord, her brushes were so horrible to look at. They were all beat up and bashed apart and just mangled and everything. I would look at them and I go, oh my gosh, really? Are you painting with those? Let's see. Tracy says, hello to all the newcomers. Yes, please, hello to all the newcomers. If you so choose, and you don't have to, but please say hi. Let us all know that you're here and where you hail from. There might just be somebody here from your same neck of the woods, and it'd be nice to say hi and see what's going on where you're living at. I'll let you know where I'm at. I'm in Central California, coastal Central California, I guess I should say. And so yeah, so what do we have? Well, we're 13, 14, 15 people here. We're jumping around a little bit. So anybody, please stop and say hello. You don't need to spend a lot of money on brushes to make great art. That is so true. Let's see, Michelle. Michelle got this 8 set. They were really nice looking. Be trying them this weekend. Okay, fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah, I think you're really going to like those 90-20 brushes. I right away, I knew I was going to like them. Sherry says, I can't do lives, too much anxiety. I get that. I totally understand that. It's not for everybody. But I'm weird because I can talk in front of groups and it doesn't seem to bother me. But I have a lot of friends that would rather have a leg sawn off than have to stand in front of a group of people and talk. I think so. When I was very young, you know, as young people are, I really didn't want to talk in front of groups. I was intensely shy, didn't want to talk in front of groups, didn't want to talk really at all. And the first job I got out of graduate school, I had to give a presentation to all of the corporate heads of the company that I worked for. And I was scared to death. Absolutely, literally scared to death. I was literally shaking as I was giving my presentation. I'm trying very hard to keep my voice from straining. But I got through it. And kind of afterwards, I went, these are, you know, at the time, these are the most important people in my life. They basically could hire and fire me on a dime. And if I can get through a presentation with them, I think I can get through just about anything. And that kind of eased the stress quite a bit. And I haven't had too many trouble since then. Let's see. Michael, have you ever thought about doing one of these live sessions in a Zoom meeting? Yeah, I would do this in a Zoom meeting. You know, you mean in a little bit more intimate place where you can maybe trade ideas or visuals back and forth? Yeah, absolutely. I've totally thought about that. I was going to put that down as a like you can do a subscription service or I don't even remember what it's called, through YouTube. And one of the things I was going to offer was, hey, I'll be on at, you know, let's say 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. Anybody who wants to come on 8 o'clock on Saturday morning, hop on this Zoom session or this Google Meet session or whatever it was going to be, and then we're going to all paint together. I would very much enjoy it. I don't know if everybody wants to spend another day with me, but I would totally enjoy that. Let's see. Suduke went to a wine tasting party once, and everyone had to vote for their best tasting wine, and the winner was the cheapest wine from a corner liquor store. Yeah, it's funny how we perceive things without knowing what the cost behind them is. Yeah. That's all Liza's saying. So you can love it. I still love Blue Nun from my poor college days. Works fed Blue Nun. Woo, I haven't heard of that in a long time. Sherry says brushes have skyrocketed in price here in Canada, even the cheap ones. Yeah, they've gone. I think they've gone up everywhere. I think that's a problem. Grew up in Barstow, not there anymore, thank God. Sherry from Barstow, really? I've been through Barstow so many times. I was gonna say I like Barstow, but I like going through Barstow. I guess I don't know. I like Baker more. Stop at the Bun Boy in Baker. See the giant thermometer. I think that's where they have that. I haven't been through in years. But Michelle is in Devon, in the UK. Wow, it's late for you, or I'm sorry, it's very early for you. Liza plan on buying them for myself for Christmas. Okay, cool, awesome. Suke, I had a nip of Mad Dog. Oh, jeez. Oh. Let's see, I don't drink wine anymore, but the last time I did it was Blue Nun. Holy cow. All right. Sherry says, I'm on the Pacific Coast too, same time zone as Michael, but you are way far north of me in British Columbia, just across the border. Is the Zoom app free? I've never done Zoom. Liza, the Zoom app is free, and you can use it for 40 minutes per session with the free version. But if you use like Google Meet you can use for as long as you want if you have a Google email account. Just goes for a longer amount of time. Okay, I'm gonna try to get back to some painting here. If you did Zoom, you would love to see everyone. It's so where I work, we use Zoom, of course. We use Zoom. Can't possibly have a meeting without Zoom anymore. And my division, we're all required to turn our cameras on when we're on Zoom. That's one of the requirements for us, and which I'm totally fine with me. But it's funny, every time we're in a meeting with somebody from a different division, we're the only ones with cameras on. And I get asked all the time, how come you guys always turn your camera on? Why do you turn your cameras on? Why don't you just leave them off? And I'm like, well, would love to, but we're not allowed to do that. So I think I was in front of Zoom, or I was in a Zoom meeting. I will bet you I was in 5 hours of Zoom meetings today. Whew, 5 hours of Zoom meetings. Whew, that's a lot. That's a lot of Zoom meetings. I'm just going to say that's a lot of Zoom meetings. That's been the most for a while. I think the most amount of Zoom time I've had in one day is about 7 hours. Which is a lot. And you think sometimes that, well, you're just sitting at your desk and it's not that big of a deal. But, to be on a Zoom meeting for 7 hours, even 6 hours or 5 hours a day is quite a lot. So you see, I left a little light spot there, right? I want to leave it. Maybe there's a little bulge there, or a little where the knuckle is at right there or something, right? I don't want to completely just make this all dark. I want to add a little bit of interest to this. So I'm going to try to leave a little bit of color here and there. And I'm just going to go around to a number of these places kind of randomly and add a lot of color to them, right? A little more in some places, a little less in some places, and we'll see if we can't make something that looks a bit, I don't know. This This is layer number 2. This is where we start to add some dimensionality to what we're doing. So I want to add some darks to start adding that roundness, but I don't want to just fill in color just to make more color, right? I don't think I'm saying that quite right. Sudika says he used to train people in UK and India how to use a zoom type tool, and it's hard to keep people engaged. Yeah. Yeah. After, I don't know, 20 minutes, it's easy to check out. We try to counter that by everybody having a part to play in almost every meeting. But even so, it's tough, right? It's just hard. My best friend in the meetings, I will tell you, my best friend is a Rubik's Cube. I have a couple of spinners and I have some other toys at my desk, but I have a Rubik's Cube. And in the last meeting I had today, I solved it and messed it up 5 times. Something like that. All right. So, Liza, you can start to see some of the dimension on here, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. It's a spider, and we're going to go back over it with another layer, too. We're going to add some more to it, but we can start to add some of this on. It's never too early to start to add some of this on and make this a little bit better. So you can be stretching through the entire meeting. That'd be all right. That'd be all right. I think if I stretched through some meetings, I would have accomplished more than I did in some of my meetings. I shouldn't just say that. If anybody is here from my work and just kind of hanging out in the background, that's not true. That was somebody else that said that. You know what's weird? Previously I said I don't have any problem talking in front of a group of people. And I really don't. But I hate talking on Zoom meetings. And I don't know if it's because you don't get the feedback that you get from being in front of a live group, or if there's something else going on, but I really do not like talking in front of a Zoom group. It's the weirdest, oddest thing I think that I do at work, and it's just so weird. Tonight I was making a cat's cradle with a rubber band while talking with a friend on the phone. Does anyone? I remember the cat's cradle, but I don't remember doing it with a rubber band. I remember doing it with a piece of string, right? It's not how we used to do it. And you would go and you'd do like that. Is that the one? Sudike, Eliza says, Sudike, I constantly sketched during report at my job. There you go. I tried sketching, but I have to look down too much. I can't. If I just start looking down, then people start asking me what I'm doing. And I can't. It was a large rubber band. Okay. I can't look down. The Rubik's Cube I've done so many times. Do I have one out here? I don't see one. I thought I had one out here. I've done it so many times. I can just kind of glance at it, glance down, glance back up, and then I can manipulate it to the next step. Glance down, glance up. and I'm off and running. All right, so we're getting some life in some of these legs on this guy. I think we're getting there. We're just going to keep right on rolling with him. I need a job. I don't need a job to sketch. You don't need a job to sketch. I got to read that right. You don't need a job to sketch. Yeah, but would it be nice to have a job that let you sketch? Your boss used to watch you sketch. So I had a boss at one point in time when we all did live in-person meetings. If anybody can ever remember that time, seems like so long ago. And I work at a university, and I was staff, and my boss was a faculty member, but one of his faculty members would doodle during the faculty meetings. Cool. All right, cool. Well, he never sanctioned her. He would ask her in the meeting about her drawings and why she picked one drawing or why she would do a different drawing and why not something else, and she answered and whatnot. So I was like, okay, cool. So I got called into a staff meeting, and I'll say I did pay attention to the part that I needed to pay attention to. It's not like I was just completely slagging off. But where I didn't need to pay attention, I just decided to start doodling, and he called me out on it. Said, you shouldn't be doodling, during our meetings. You need to pay attention to everything I'm saying, and blah, blah, blah. And I went, well, that's funny, because you let your faculty doodle during your meetings, and he got upset that I called him on it. And he ended up marking me down on my yearly evaluation for it. I was like, okay, that's cool. You can do that. But I think he forgot that I get to write a rebuttal to my evaluation. So I wrote a rebuttal, and I said, it's really interesting that he's going to tell me that I'm not allowed to doodle, since his faculty doodles in his other meetings, and he asks them about them and praises them on those, but he's going to give me a demerit for this. Well, the dean heard about it and called him to the office. He got in trouble for writing me up for doodling, and I think it would have been fine had he done it if he'd applied that standard to everybody, but he didn't, and that was his big problem. I tell him I'm sketch noting. What I did was, I knew he was going to say something to me because I'd had several run-ins with him before, so I actually went out and found a whole bank of research that showed that people who doodle during meetings aren't doodling because they don't want to pay attention. For many people, it's a coping mechanism and a learning mechanism, and many people can retain things better if you're doodling because you associate what somebody's saying with something physical that you're drawing. And so I actually presented that as part of my rebuttal to my evaluation. And I think that's what helped me come out on top. But I don't know. He was such a weird guy. Kind of glad I don't have to work for him anymore. All right, is our spider kind of taking shape at all? I think it is. I think it's getting there. you all know that final step where I'm going to put some hairs around the outside and everything is really going to help this come together really nicely. I think we've done enough of these final steps where it kind of looks okay. It looks good. You're looking at it. You're like, yeah, I like it. And then that final step we do, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, all right, now that looks nice. Sneaker says, Michael, that experience is why I prefer horses and dogs to people. I would prefer horses and dogs to that person. I don't know if I'd prefer them to all people. But that person, yeah, I'm with you on that. Campus politics. That's it for me exactly. Like I said, that's it for me exactly. Sherry says, right. Yeah, Liza says, we all have someone we're glad we don't have to work for anymore. I have at least 2 people that I'm so thankful I don't have to work for anymore. And I know of one that I wish I got to work with longer. Yeah, I had I had a boss. I used to work at a chemical company in Michigan. I won't name the company and I won't name the town, and nobody will be able to look it up and nobody will know any difference. But I used to work at this chemical company in Michigan, and my boss, who had this giant yellow comb over, it was the weirdest thing. It was literally a yellow comb over, would just do whatever he could to infuriate as many people as he could. And I'm like, why would you do that? Why are you trying to make people angry? And he goes, well, if they're angry, they're going to work harder. And I'm like, oh, no, that's not how that works, Michelle. Well, unfortunately, it's nearly 4 a.m. in Devon. Still going to get a couple of hours sleep before my day starts. Michelle, thank you so much for joining. Really love having you here. Looking forward to hearing your review of those brushes. Go get yourself some sleep so that you can get up and enjoy your day tomorrow. This will be here when you get back. If you still want to take a look at it, this will totally be here when you get back. So, by all means, go and do something. Sherry says, that's true. People with ADHD cope better if they do other activities while learning. Right. Sudik, I have 5 dog children who I miss, and I hope they will be surrounding my parents when I go to where I'm eventually going to go. Yeah, but you're not going there for a long time, so a dog parent, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, and Michelle, good night. Get some good rest. All right, and we're going to continue with our legs here. I hope everybody can see this. Oh, I just looked up. It looks like it's coming together. Right? It's starting to look like something. Now, I noticed that Natalie isn't here. Or if she's here, I haven't noticed. I don't think she said anything. I'll bet you Natalie has a lot of these by her. I'd be willing to bet. I'm just going to transition the oh, Natalie is here. Hello. Great timing. Natalie, you must have tarantulas near you. I'm assuming, I honestly don't really know, but I would assume that you have them out in the desert. They're kind of desert-ish. That was great timing, Natalie. I've only had a couple. The first one we ever saw scare the crap out of your husband. I get that. They're scary. Okay, so, or maybe they're just, I would imagine they got to be around you. Let's see. I'm killing you with my blending. Boy, I think I'm having a hard time. But thank you. I'm trying. You know, this really isn't the fairest test with this brush. Actually, the brush is performing as well as I thought it was going to, but this brush isn't really made for this small of an area. And so I'm struggling a little bit with it, but I think I'm getting through. Whoops, there we go. I'm to the point right excuse me, I'm to the point right now where I'm just blocking out a shape on these legs. I want to connect all of these legs. So I'm to the point where I just want to block out some color on these back ones. They're pretty dark. Right, and we can go pretty dark as we want to go on these. And it should start to connect this whole thing together. Natalie says scorpions are much more common. I should have painted a scorpion. Well, scorpions aren't really, we don't think of scorpions as scary, even though they are. I should say we don't. I guess I don't. Right? Scorpions to me are much more exotic than just a spider is. But I guess that's not really true. I grew up in Ohio. Let's see. Sherry says, I lived in Palm Desert for a time, and we caught a scorpion in our garage. Wee, yay, yay. So you can maybe bingo will surprise you. Bingo will surprise you and be all calm, love, and peace. There you go. I visited my grandfather he lived in Port Lavaca, Texas. This was in the 80s, 1980s. He lived in Port Lavaca, Texas. And I will remember this for a long, long time for a number of reasons. One is I got to spend the better part of a summer with my grandfather, who was an unbelievable human being. In fact, he was my father's father, and my mother still talks about how great of a human. My mother and father are no longer together, but she still talks about how wonderful of a human being my grandfather was. And I'll just let that be a little indication of how much I would have or could have enjoyed spending the summer with him. Anyways, so I spent the summer with him. So I went down to Port Lavaca, Texas from Podunk Town in northeast Ohio. And at one point in time, it was just he and I. My grandmother was visiting her sisters in Michigan at the time. He went, hey, can you go in the pantry and get a couple of bowls out of there? And I went into the pantry, and it was, I don't know, it was a room 5 feet wide and, 8 feet long or something like that. It had bowls and cutlery and stuff on this side and food on that side. Cool, I'm fine with that. I walked in, and I went to grab a bowl, and I went, maybe I should just look to see if that's the right bowl. And I turned the light on, and before I could reach in there, I saw something move inside the bowl, and it was a scorpion. And if I hadn't turned that light on, if I had just grabbed that, I have no doubt that thing would have stung me, and I would have been, well, I would have been crying like a baby to begin with, but I would have been tainted against them for life. So I will always remember, it was 1983 that I visited down there and almost got stung by a scorpion. And to this day, I don't like scorpions. Sherry says, I spent today drawing with Dr. P.H. Martin Sepia India ink and an nib pen. It was a lot of fun. I got them last Christmas and just started them out. So, do you all remember Jen Newman, who was here for a hot minute? She's an Australian woman who stopped in. She works at this time, and it's always hard for her to be here at this point in time. But she is a big fan. I've known her for a number of years, maybe 5 or 6 years, maybe more than that. She loves pen and ink, and her nib dip ink well in her nib, and I'm like, I don't know how you do all of that. I can't do that, but man, she loves pen and ink. So I don't even know if you guys ever remember her. Let's see. Sherry says, Sherry said you got Christmas in October. That's pretty good. Liza says, dang. Let's see, Natalie, we had a rental house with quite a variety of scorpions. It was a bad year for the whole neighborhood. I don't think I would like a variety of scorpions. A scorpion, I think, would be bad enough. A variety of scorpions sounds almost as bad as, I don't know, a murder of crows or a gaggle of geese. A variety of scorpions just doesn't sound good to me. I think nothing good can come from a variety of scorpions. And I realize variety probably isn't the right name for a group of scorpions, but that's what it reminds me of. All right, there we go. A little bit on the back end of this guy. Are you starting to see some of the madness of my painting here? I tried to paint in a little bit of hair. I guess negative paint in a little bit of hair here and there. Oh, he's looking good, I think. Look. And that little back little bit there. Woo-hoo. And then I'm going to do the same with this right behind these eyes. Get some of this nice dark in here, and I'm going to let this blend out that way. Now, I want to make sure I keep this brown because I want these eyes, and I realize I've only got 4 eyes on here. They probably have 8. But this one's only got 4 because that's all I could draw. Needed to get this. There are several different kinds from very tiny up to about 3 inches long. Here, they get a lot bigger than that elsewhere, though, right? Natalie has been appointed Scorpion Queen. She's the official Wednesday night watercolor Scorpion Ambassador. You have a new title. Just by speaking up on the topic, you've been appointed with the new title of Scorpion Ambassador. Sadika, you like using fountain pens. I like fountain pens, but I never found a really good way to use a dip pen. I just didn't get the same feeling off of a dip pen that I got off of a fountain pen. And yes, I realize they're not that different. Uh-oh. Scheisse. Didn't mean to go there. I'm going to go on this side with a little bit of this orange. Let's give him this nice haircut here. He can have a little orange on top. Look at there. There we are. Yes, I had to get a little different brush in here. That one was going to be just a little too big for what I wanted. Maybe I can continue with a little bit more of this dark in through here. I'm basically just tapping this on, really. And if I get a little mottling in there, mottling, I'm okay with it. There he is. Okay, all right, right. What paper am I using tonight? I can answer that quite easily. Uh-oh. Can you see the watermark? You can't. I'm using Arches paper. There's the water. I know. This is how I know quite easily, because the watermark is right there and it says Arches that way. So I got that one. But I will tell you, Liza, it feels like 90-pound watercolor paper, and I don't know for the life of me where I would have gotten 90-pound Arches watercolor paper. That's perplexing me. That's perplexing me. But that's what it is. Okay, so let's see. I got to do a little bit more here. Let's see. You've got a leg here. It's going to come up this way, and I'm going to mix. I got a little bit of this black. Now, a couple weeks ago, we talked about having this extra binder that comes out of your black. Did we talk about that? Maybe it was more than a couple of weeks ago. Well, when I poured my black out of the tube this time, some of that extra binder came out. But I'm just kind of not worried about it. It's just going to get blended in. But I want to put a little bit of this black in because I think it's going to help to pull this leg a little forward. I want this just over top of that leg behind it. Oh, okay. Uh-oh, Sherry. Wait, who's going? Sherry. Uh-oh, Sherry's got to go. Okay, cool. Sherry, thank you for stopping by. It was great to have you here. Hopefully you can stop by next week. Would love to see you back here again. Is this my usual live time? Yes, I go live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific. If you hit the subscribe button down below and click the little bell, you'll get a notification of the next time I go live, and then you'll just get that. Or maybe, oh, did I say that wrong? It might be that you just subscribe and don't click that and you get it. Maybe that's what I'm not sure. Either way, click the subscribe, and there's a chance you'll get notification from YouTube about it. But however you do, I hope you'll be back next week. great to have you here. I should know that. I should know those things. It makes me feel like I don't know about my total channel. Everybody asks me YouTube questions at work and streaming questions, and I'm like, I don't know. I just hit go and go. Uh-oh. Michael, let's talk about binder. I have some paints that it really leaks out of the tube. What's that all about? It makes them hard to re-wet. It does make them hard to re-wet. You are correct. What's it all about? It's the paint settling out. That's all it is. The paint settles out, and it's basically pigment, super fine pigment in a binder agent, and it's a solution, and it just holds it in state. Sometimes it will settle, whether it be from vibration or lack of vibration or temperature or some such thing. It will cause the pigment to fall out of that solution. That's all it is. There's nothing more to it. Is there anything you can do about it? Not a lot. Can you do anything to keep it from splashing out? You mean like as soon as you take the top off, it comes shooting out because the tube is under a little pressure? Not a lot. Right? There isn't a lot you can do about that. You can I was going to say you can try to like mix it in your hand. You can't really even shake it because typically the binder is thick enough that the shaking doesn't do anything. You would need something to stir it with to really get it back together. That's why sometimes you can, if you can squeeze the tube, if you've already got some out, you can squeeze, and it'll kind of work it back in. But even then, it's kind of hit and miss. It's not the most brilliant thing. A lot of times, if it's gone, it's gone. But the thing is, your paint is still going to be good. Your paint is still totally fine. There's nothing wrong with your paint. It's just that the binder has come out, and you can put your paint on a palette. You could chip your paint out of the tube and put it on your palette and just re-wet it individually. You can try to put get it out of your palette and try to put more binder on it. And sometimes that binder will seep in. Not always, but sometimes it will seep back into it. But unfortunately, it happens with all paints, or all brands, I should say. It happens with all brands. Some it happens more often than others. If you use a less expensive paint, there probably will be more binder in it in general, so there's more of a chance that you're going to have that issue. But no, there's not a great way to take care of that. I have, you guys know, I have gone to plenty of garage sales and estate sales and all kinds of sales like that, and I've gotten a lot of paint from places like that, and sometimes it's completely dried up. I'll just go ahead and drop it right on my palette, cut the tin open, or the tube open, put it on my palette, and fill that well with some water and let it sit. Or put a good bit of guar gum. Is that what it is? Xanthan gum? What is it that I put on there? Anybody know? That happened to the tube of M. Graham white gouache. The binder came out. Yeah, it's separated. But you can put some gum arabic. That's what it is. You can put some gum arabic on there, and sometimes it will reconstitute it. It'll never be perfect, but you can always wet it as you're using it. It'll be harder to re-wet. It'll be more like if you use Winsor Newton. Winsor Newton is typically a harder paint, right? It just sets harder when it sets, but it's still there, and you can still use it. And there's nothing wrong with it. It'll just take you a little bit longer to re-wet it and to use it. Is all. All right, so we've got a few segments here that I'm not happy with, and I'm gonna try to make these a little bit more dimensional as we go. I've gone back to, this is a very small, this is a 2, oh, this is a 4. Oh, it's not quite as small as I thought. King Art brush. So on these smaller areas, I feel like I can just get in there a bit more and grab that little area that I want. Just fill in that little area as I want it. And I feel like I have a little bit more confidence to do that. Oh, I think this guy's looking pretty good, actually. As I look at him, we're going to strengthen the color on a couple of these legs up here. That should pull this whole thing forward. Won't do a whole lot going back on these back ones. In fact, this one probably has just a little too much color. Maybe we can get a little bit of that off. Gum Arabic. Sherry, you got it. You're right. I was trying to think of it. Thank you. Sometimes the gum Arabic helps. So I would love to say all the time it helps, but I'd be lying to you if I said that, because all the time it doesn't help. It's a some of the time. The spider is looking good. The spider is looking good. It sounds like something a spy would say. The spider is looking good. Roger that. The spider is looking good. but thank you. It's coming together. He's going to get there. It's not everybody's cup of tea to paint a spider. I get that. I understand. But it's Halloween. We can be outside of our comfort zone a little bit. I didn't think about it. Everything this month already has been black and or orange. Or black and orange. Which is kind of Halloween colors, right? And we're going to have a pumpkin coming up, I know, in the end. And that will be orange. Or orange adjacent anyways. It really is a black and orange holiday. So who asked me before? Who was on? Sherry? No. Who was on here at the beginning with me? Sidike. Oh, of course. So I am going to cheat a little bit at the end here when we put some hair on this guy, and I'm not going to use watercolor. And this will be one of the first times I have ever used gouache, but I'm going to use a little bit of gouache to put some hair on to really bring him to life. So that's coming up. Liza says, it was Sudike. Said, Michael, why can't you remember that? I don't know. Sometimes my brain turns off. Sometimes I forget. And it's been, this is the end of a long day for me, my Wednesdays. I don't want to give them up, and this is not an excuse for my brain turning off by any stretch, but I get up early because that's when my body says it wants me to wake up. Why? I still haven't quite figured out. But my body likes me to get up early, and so this morning it said at about 4:30 this morning, I think it's time for you to wake up. And I tried to tell it really wasn't, but it wasn't listening to me. So I've nailed this spider. It's getting there. It's getting there. Right, I've got all these lovely blending areas. I went with this little smaller brush. It's so much nicer to do a little bit of this blending. Of course, I do love a nice smooth gradient. I do really love that. Let's see, Liza, that's a shame. DS is so expensive. If you don't mind working from Paynes, at least you won't have to deal with the binder once. Yeah. I don't know. I really don't know what it is that causes the binding agents on so many paints to break. I have a hard time believing that it's the mixture, right? I have a hard time believing that the company didn't do something right. But it must have just gotten jostled in transportation somehow, or I don't know. But the good thing is that you can still use it. Alright, so a little bit here on some of these legs, just the underside of some of these legs here. Not even exactly sure if I've got this right. I guess it doesn't really matter if it's right. Oh, you know what I was going to do? I just remembered this. While I was thinking about this last night, I was going to put my shadow on the bottom first. I guess I messed that up. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, you leave your tubes flat. I just throw mine in a bin. I got like the little Tupperware bins. I just throw all mine in there so I know where they're at. And they're on their side, they're on their top, they're on whatever. I typically don't have too many problems with mine doing that. This black one did. But like you say, Liza, it's a few colors. And it's sporadic that it does it, but it does do it sometimes. And it is a little frustrating. Let's see. There's that leg. That was easy. I got color on all of these. Oh, he looks like he's just about ready to walk off the page, doesn't he? He's just about ready to walk off this page. I want to just add a little extra color to a couple of these little spots here. And then we're going to start adding a little bit of hair. He is just about ready to walk right off of here. If we put a drop shadow on here, he'd look like he's he totally look like he's three-dimensional. All right, I guess I'm not going to be sleeping tonight if I'm looking at this guy. Let's put a little extra color back up here. Right, something in here. I want to make sure all of these, probably got to do one over here too, have a little extra color on them. I want that to come forward just that little bit. Spooky. What else? Oh, I know what I want to ask. Did everybody... This has nothing to do with painting. Absolutely nothing to do with painting. But it is a newsworthy topic. Did everybody, or did anybody... And to me, this was one of the most amazing things I've seen in the entire time I have been alive. Did anybody watch the rocket catch that SpaceX did? I'm immensely curious because it was completely amazing. I'm still shocked that anybody, I don't care who they are, I don't care where they are, I don't care how they do it, I'm shocked that anybody could actually catch a rocket out of mid-air. I was flabbergasted. I was up at 5 on Sunday watching the launch and catch attempt, and I'm literally jumping around my living room trying desperately not to wake the rest of my family up because I was in such disbelief that it actually worked, that we caught a rocket that returned to Earth after having been in space. It was one of the most amazing things I have ever seen. Tracy, you are in Texas. It happened in your state. And you didn't know about it. I don't know if it's SpaceX, if it's the news, if it's I don't know if news companies don't like Elon Musk. I don't know why everybody in the whole world would not have been covering this. I remember the space shuttle taking off and coming back, and I remember watching that. I guess I was 12 when that happened. Does anybody know exactly what year? I'm trying to think. I think that was 1982 that the space shuttle launched and returned. And I remember watching that and just thinking to myself, oh my gosh, this is completely, utterly amazing. How are we ever going to top this? Space flight from here on out is going to be unbelievable. And then we kind of got away from it. And then, the Falcon 9 rockets, which land on their own, I thought was pretty amazing. But this thing is this massive rocket booster, blasted Starship off into space. Starship continued on its way, and then it flew back in, and at 30 meters above the tower, it was still going 3,000 kilometers an hour. And it fired its boosters, and it just came down and went zzz, zoom, boop, it landed right there, and it was unbelievable. So the space shuttle was amazing until Challenger. The space shuttle was amazing even after Challenger. The Challenger was a dark day, but that didn't diminish the amazingness. I don't want to diminish the loss of life and, you know, the devastating effect that it had on the people and the families in the space program. But the accomplishment of the shuttles, or all of the shuttles, was still just unbelievable. And this is just unbelievable too. I have the actual vinyl record. Wait, whoa. The space shuttle was fantastic. I have the actual vinyl records of that. Now, Tracy, what final? Oh, I think you must say final records. I'm like, vinyl records. Fine. I think you mean final records. Wow. Natalie, your husband's company makes parts for SpaceX, and you didn't know. Yeah, it's right. The Challenger accident tore the heart out of the space mission for a few years. It did. Okay, so all right, now. Okay, so I want to do the same thing that we have done before, and I want to give some, not all, but some fur and hair to some of the areas around here, right? So I want to do a little bit of this, or a couple of these areas that I want to have a little bit of fur around the outside, and I'm going to put the first bit of this on with this darker color. Right, and you've seen me do this before. I don't think this part is anything new to anybody who's watched me in the past 6 months or so. Is getting some nice, I'm not trying to outline necessarily, but there's a semblance of a little bit of outlining that goes on with this technique. But I just want to give it a little bit of a look that there's something going on here. And we can do that by putting that very dark color around the outside and then blending it in very smoothly on things. And all of a sudden, look, there's a little bit of hair here and a little bit of hair there that wasn't there before. And I probably do this a lot better on one side than on the other. And I think if we do this on, you love the leg hairs. I think doing this, right, it really doesn't add, you know, a lot to whatever you're painting. I mean, in reality, it's not much that you're doing to the painting, but it gives it that little extra oomph, right? If you saw this spider without some of this hair on its legs, you'd go, yeah, okay, cool, you know, spider, all right. But now you're going to see the spider, and it's going to have these little hairy bits coming off of it. And it's not a lot more, but your eye's going to go, oh, okay, now it's a spider and it's got some hair on it, and then you feel a little bit different about it. I can't tell you exactly why it does that, but I know that when I stumbled upon it, and I don't even know that I thought of this technique or anything like that. I probably saw it somewhere and forgot about it, and then remembered it and started doing it. Wouldn't doubt that, but it just gives it the little extra something. It makes you go, okay. Now there's a little something going on. It doesn't have to be perfect or anything. Sherry, you were all sitting out of your house and trying to watch it land. That would have been cool. So I'm not trying to promote any one person's site or anything, but man, if anybody has an interest in seeing one of the coolest things, a really engineering feat, a technological feat, you can find the video of that rocket landing. It's all over YouTube. I would imagine some of the mainstream news medias carry it, but really you can find a clip, and I know you can find clips that will last as little as 20 seconds or so, and you can find some that'll last. Well, the entire flight of that booster was only 5 minutes and 20 seconds long, so you could watch the whole thing from launch to landing of the booster, anyways. And it doesn't take very long to watch it, but it's just, if you have any interest in anything like that, just take a watch. It's unbelievable. Everything was black and white back then. Only the stuff on TV was in black and white. Not everything was in black and white. So I remember my dad telling me that he didn't buy, I'm sure my grandfather bought it, so but his family had a colored sheet that they put on their TV, and it had, what did he say? It had a sky area and a blue area and a green area, so that if they were watching an outdoor movie, there were parts that made it look like it was the right colors and everything. I don't know, I just laughed. Okay, so I've got some gouache here. I've got some gouache here, and we're going to try to do this, and we're going to try to make some hair on the orange parts of this spider. And the only thing that's stopping us from doing this really well is that I've never done this before. I tried it yesterday, and then I had to go in the house and ask my son, why is this not working out the way that I think it should be working out? I've never used it before. Am I mixing it right? Am I mixing it wrong? So I'm taking advice from a teenager as I'm doing this. And let's hope we can get this right. Now, one thing that might be holding us back is this is not the most expensive gouache in the world. All right, that's probably good. Maybe a little bit more water in there. So I want it to be I was told I have to make sure it's mixed. Hair makes the spider. Ooh. Who says that hairs make the spider? Hairs make this spider. I walked out of my house on Friday morning last week, and there was this giant orb weaver spider. We have big orb weaver spiders, and it had made a giant spider web between a pine tree, our mailbox, and the ground, and the web had to be 3 feet in diameter, and a spider the size of a $50 right in the center of it. I was like, wow. So, not coming off quite like I want. I have some W and Govahar. Windsor and Newton, I'm assuming that means Windsor and Newton gouache. I have some Windsor and Newton gouache that I bought as a mistake. I thought it was watercolor at an estate sale, and that's a little better. We can get some hairs on here now. You know what? Let's do this. Let's mix in a little of our watercolor here. Make me feel better about the color of it all. This was going to work really well. Oh, I think we just had it still had it a little too thick. Let's get some better hairs in here. Now up here we can put some bigger hairs. It's just not quite the right color. But importantly, it's not so different that it's going to take too much away. That's why I think a little bit of our original color in there would really help. I was hoping this would go over some of the color that's there already, and help to bring some of this forward and push some of this back. We're going to find out here when I'm done in a second if it's done any of that at all. But I do think the color is working a little bit. Let's get some back here. My first time. That makes this multimedia, right? Oh, it does. Oh, you can totally tell. You can totally tell he's got some orange hairs on him. Ooh, he does look spooky. He does look spooky. Let's see. Anyone here ever touch a tarantula? I have. I was with someone when he touched one, and he said it was very soft. Right. It is soft-ish. I saw a video shot in Australia of a spider webs covering trees and bushes. Oh, I've seen some of those. I think creepy is an understatement. Creepy is one word. Completely terrifying would be another word for that. You know what? I actually like him. I actually think he looks pretty good. I'm going to give a little bit of this orange color down here. I like him. Liza, this is why I don't I don't get too worried about it, because I I had no idea what this gouache was going to look like. And I think it's turned out okay. But I think I've done it enough to know that even if this gouache wasn't going to work out, there'd be some element of texture on here that would make it look okay. I actually kind of like this guy. So now I have the question, should I put a shadow underneath him, or is that asking for trouble? That's probably asking for a lot of trouble. That's asking for a lot of trouble. I'm going to leave the... I don't feel like... I like where he's at right now. I don't want to completely blow this up. But look at the... my gouache is going to fall. Look at the hairs that gouache put on there. Right? There's our dark hairs down here. And the gouache just put on some little hairs so that when you look at it from back here, a little bit away, it gives enough texture. It gives just enough texture. So, I actually really like him. I think he looks great. I'm going to sign him right here. And now that I've signed him, I can do a little bit of... goods and bads. What are we talking? What do we call it? Soaring heights and abject disasters. A little self-reflection. So my biggest concern with this whole thing, honestly, was going to be this junction right here. Give me something I can point with. Where's my blue? There we go. Right here, between his thorax and his abdomen. And I tried to make this darker back here to give a bigger definition between the two. I kind of got it right, but what I didn't tell you guys is when I did this and I painted all these hairs, I forgot to paint the hairs over his leg here, and so I was always going to have a problem where it kind of juts in, and he looks like he's got more of a flat top here than than anything. To me, I think if I didn't mention that, nobody would notice anything. What I like, these legs are lighter and therefore further back in the painting than these ones. I probably could have made these even a little bit darker, and I'll bet you if I Natalie, I'll bet you if I put a bit of a drop shadow on this, it would bring it even more to the forefront, right? Because these shadows back here would be a lot lighter, if at all, and the shadows up here would be darker because they're closer to you, and that would just bring the whole front of this spider forward a little bit. I actually wanted to do that before we started the whole thing. I was going to put a bunch of drop shadow on to begin with and then paint over it and be done with it. Some of the other things I like the segments here, right? They individually painted and you can see their segments, right? They each have their own shading on them, but they just come close enough to each other. They just touch that little bit so that you buy it, that they're connected, right? A couple of them go over a little bit and they're definitely connected, but these ones back here really look like they're segmented and together. And then I do love all the little hairs, the orange hair, the brown hair here. It really does help bring it to life and make it look a lot creepier. So that's what I have with that. And I think with that, I'm going to call it good. I don't know what time is it? Holy cow. Wow, we've been going for almost 2 hours now, and it feels like about 40 minutes. It really does. So I'm going to leave it there, and I want to thank you all for joining me this week, this Wednesday, helping to make the end to my Wednesday a fantastic end to my Wednesday. Next week, we'll be back doing another painting. Halloween, but maybe not so creepy crawly. I was thinking scarecrow or witch or something like that. Something we can all get behind. But until then, I'll figure out what that's going to be. What's big for next week's painting? I don't know. I'll let you know over the weekend or a Monday when I figure it out. Until then, I hope you all have a great rest of your evening. I hope you have a great rest of your week. And I hope you're able to join me back here again in the studio next Wednesday at 7 Pacific when we do something else. Until then, thank you so much. Bye-bye.